So there's been an update to the court case drama that Alyssa Mercante has been throwing at me frivolously to push back against our counter to them, saying that what they put out there is something so frivolous that it needs to be tossed out because all the accusations they made there don't hold any weight. And now Alyssa's lawyers have responded in turn with something so ridiculous that it actually makes perfect sense because, in my humble opinion, these people are complete morons. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article that I'll put together in the background on this. But for right now, we're just going to go through the letter from Cohen and Green, the law firm representing Alyssa Mercante, in response to the letter that Ron Coleman, the lawyer representing me, has sent out to Judge Brody, the judge presiding over this ridiculous situation, saying in that 3-page letter that I covered previously that this woman is basically online, unhinged, insane. Here's proof of it. This is a ridiculous lawsuit. Please toss this out because we don't want to waste any more time and money on this. Otherwise, we're going to need to pursue other avenues of countering this. And what does Cohen and Green say? Oh, no, it's fine. Because all that stuff that Ron Coleman sent us, he doesn't really understand what we're actually suing for. And we don't really either. So if we need to amend this and change it so that everyone understands, we can do that. But at the end of the day, I don't know. We'll see. So anyways, without further ado, it says, Dear Judge Brody, my firm with co-counsel represents plaintiff in the above case. I write, per the court's rules, to respond to defendant's pre-motion conference letter as set out below. Plaintiff intends to exercise her amendment as of right under Rule 15A1B, both to address some of what the defendant raises, which, by the way, that's saying we raised, hey, what you're suing us for, you can't because that's what you are, and here's proof of it. So Alyssa's saying, well, we can amend that because if that's a problem, we'll change that. And to address some post-filing conduct that bears on the claims, because apparently post-filing conduct only applies to me, even though she's the one that's been going on and on about me on social media every day, baiting me to say and do anything. Gotcha. Okay, let's see how that plays out. However, plaintiff also addresses the substance because some of the theories advanced are meritless. They're saying that our theories we're advancing are meritless, which is rich. If the court has any preference on how to sequence amendments so as to conserve time and resources, but also allow plaintiff to fully respond to the actual theories defendant presents for dismissal, plaintiff would appreciate that guidance. So basically, my understanding of that in layman's terms is they need to know what they need to do to respond and asking the judge, what can we do about this? What would you prefer us to do? Because we're not dropping this. We're moving forward, even though what we've moved forward with doesn't really hold any weight. We're going to amend it to find a way where it does hold weight. Defendant's personal jurisdiction arguments are meritless. First, defendant's argument the court lacks jurisdiction is odd because the defendant's website, where he made some of the statements at issue in the defamation claims, is hosted by Wix.com, which has its primary office in Manhattan. Wow, we're going to start doing this now? We're going to start to where it's originally hosted from? You're going to use that? And that's not even where most of the claims were. You were trying to claim it was coming from Twitter. So now we're saying it's Wix that's the problem because they're in New York. You're probably wishing that Twitter was in New York too, if this is the logic we're going by, but okay. And Wix's terms of service have a New York court choice of venue and jurisdiction, noting any litigation relating to Wix's services shall be brought in, and you hereby consent to them being decided exclusively by a court of competent jurisdiction located in New York, New York. So, by choosing Wix as his hosting platform with its venue of choice of law clause, defendant has purposefully availed himself to the privilege of conducting activities within the forum state and invoked the benefits and protections of its laws. That is, there were purposeful business transactions have taken place in New York given rise to the cause of action and jurisdiction. Okay, so if we're going to go with that, and you're saying I'm making money off of her, I don't know how much money I've even made off of Wix in the grand scheme. It's not very much, and you can't even attribute all of that to Alyssa. So, what are we doing here? Uh, by the way, this is the other thing. They're building a case on top of like a situation that doesn't hold any weight. She's accusing me of saying mean words to her. And then she's saying, well, because it's on X and that's not in New York, now we're going to migrate over to, oh, he also has a website that's hosted by Wix, who is originating in New York. And because of that, we're going to get him on that now. Like, do we not see what they're doing here? Like desperately grasping at straws for anything they can find. For the non-defamation claims, things are easier. Geo Media, the parent company of Alyssa's former employee Kotaku, is located in New York. Great. Why don't you sue them then? Because they're located in New York. I don't know what I have to do with that situation, but okay. And defendant conducted a harassment campaign labeled as Zen Kotaku. It's not a harassment campaign. It was a petition to make Kotaku a better place because what it was doing was destroying the game industry, in my humble opinion, based off the politically charged articles that they kept pushing forward, ruining the dynamic of gamers enjoying the games that they were making. And here is a view of that. With 4,693 verified signatures, I don't really think it made too much of an impact, but okay. Even if it did, it doesn't really change anything. But regardless, demand the shutdown of Kotaku for the betterment of video games journalism. It goes on to say, I'm a passionate gamer. Kotaku's biased reporting. The gaming community deserves better. And then saying, by signing this petition, you're demanding accountability from parent company of Kotaku, Geo Media, and calling for them to return to unbiased reporting or shut down entirely if they refuse. I mean, again, this is something I am well within my rights to do. Just like anybody can start a petition for anything. We can exercise our rights to do that here in this free country of America. It's pretty amazing that we're allowed to do these things. And I didn't do anything detrimental to Kotaku. All I was saying is I would like to hold them to a higher standard for the betterment of gaming in general. But regardless of that, they're calling this a harassment campaign from that, which is fascinating. Directed at the employees of New York business. And so there's a lot of conjecture, assumptions, and pushing this for obviously their leverage. But none of it's actually factually true. And that's the problem I have with a lot of this. They make a lot of assumptions along the way for the accomplished purpose of, among other things, ending the plaintiff's career there. Well, the among other things is maybe you could do better. That was kind of the priority of this, is do better. And if you can't, then yeah, everyone should probably stop working there. This company is detrimental to the gaming industry. I'm allowed to feel that way. I don't understand what the problem is here. That's not a harassment campaign. Nowhere in this does it say, let's harass these employees, let's harass this company. It's talking about holding them to a higher standard and signing this and giving it to Geo Media and saying, hey, look at all the people that don't like the direction your company's going. Kind of weird that they're taking it as a harassment campaign. I can't really help you with that. And on the prima facie tort stochastic harassment claims, defendant's statements that he recognizes the publication of private information necessarily and inevitably leads to such harassment. Wait, what private information am I publishing? Because all this information was published even on Kotaku's website themselves. Hell, that's where I found most of it. So are you going to sue Kotaku for having this information listed publicly as well? And these publicly facing people on social media that have their information on their public X and Blue Sky now? So now people can't talk about that? It's curious how you want to limit what people can say about people. Plus, his celebratory behavior after just such events occurred showed he specifically targeted the harassment to each plaintiff in New York. His conduct makes no sense otherwise. What celebratory behavior? What are we talking about? And to who? This is just a bunch of generic information being sent out there. And oh, by the way, again, very meaningless, even if I am celebrating that it is moving in a better direction. What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with celebrating an end result that you're looking forward to. I don't understand how this is something that they're trying to sue me over. Again, desperation. And even today, defendant continues to appear on a New York-based streaming internet program called The Hypnocast. No, I don't. And no, it isn't. And I'm not going to say anything further than that because I'm not going to give you guys any more information because this is a straight up lie or false information. Defendant has appeared on the Hypnocast show, which streams from the host's home in Long Island, New York. Wow. We're going to start trying to dox Hypno now. Interesting. Interesting. I have additional information on this that Alyssa doesn't have, but it's fascinating to see them go this route, knowing that they're wrong about it. At least half a dozen times, frequently discussing plaintiff. And in August of 2024, the host announced that defendant would become a permanent panel member of the weekend edition of the program, known as Saturday Night Hypnocast. Man, there's a lot of wrong things written here, almost like you guys didn't do your research. Confirming the connection to this case, when the host announced defendant's addition to the Saturday night panel, the advertisement for this segment featured defendant flanked by mirrored, edited images of the plaintiff. Again, nothing illegal here. You can continue to try to build a case of, oh, look at all this stuff that people are doing, when you could do the same exact thing to you and the constant retweets and barrage of attacks that you, Alyssa, have sent towards me throughout this entire period of time as well. But you have zero accountability, and that's the problem with all of this. Defendant's presence as a permanent panel member on a New York show, one connected to his harassment of plaintiff, is for special jurisdiction, particularly when combined with the above. And what happens if none of this is true, Alyssa? You gotta redact all that? You gotta amend that again? Because here's the thing. You keep making a lot of assumptions that you actually don't know the truth of, which other people do, but I'm not gonna give you that information because I don't wanna help you. It just goes to show how you're throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks. Defendant seeks to file a motion to dismiss, essentially exclusively briefing defamation doctrine. While some claims overlap, in particular, plaintiff's harassment and prima facie tort claims are based on separate statements and acts, not merely the same defamatory statement as the defendant claim. Plaintiff is not claiming the personal details like her address and so on that the defendant shared are false, nor is she solely claiming, the personal details like her address and so on that the defendant shared. When have I ever shared the defendant's address? I've never done that. Again, another lie. Again, I didn't share that. I'm so confused by how this is worded. Nor is she claiming reputational harm from the harassment. That places this case outside the narrow rule defendant's cite, because where the alleged harm suffered by the plaintiff is not precisely the same as that caused by defamation, namely harm to the plaintiff's reputation. The court should decline to construe a claim as one for defamation. Next, the defendant inserts the word whore into statements at issue, where the actual statements are purely factual. Alyssa Mercante, was sucking dicks for money, like the plaintiff does, sucking dicks in her off time for money. Again, things that Alyssa herself said that she's basing the foundation of her case upon, that she said, that we proved she said, and they're trying to say, well, that happened, but it's really not that big of a deal because all this other stuff. There is literally no case here. I don't know how to tell you this, Alyssa. This is insane what you're pursuing here, but whatever. It almost feels like you're trying to drown me and wasting time and costing money, but far be it for me to make assumptions like that. While use of the word whore as an insult might be susceptible of many meanings, the same is not true of sucking dicks for money. Defendant's other arguments about substantial truth also rely on this elision. Presumably, defendant is not actually making the argument that anyone is free to accuse a woman who has multiple sexual partners of engaging in specific sex acts for money. Last, plaintiff has sufficiently pled actual malice, regardless of whether it is required, But plaintiff's planned amendments also address this, including by alleging that defendant gave necessarily false explanations by defendant for the source of his claim plaintiff was sucking dicks for money before working at Kotaku. See above. So these are, again, all things that Alyssa said. How'd you get into the game industry? I suck dicks. By the way, all of this ignores the fact that my response to Alyssa saying that was her attacking me for my investment to the Intellivision Amico. So I was just hitting her back with what she was hitting me with. And then she cry bullies her way to a lawsuit out of that without taking any accountability for her initial attack against me, which again is fascinating. If this case continues and actually gets pursued into a court of law, they're going to need to expose all these things about how it came to be, and she is not innocent in any of it. Conclusion. The real question is, what next? Plaintiff intends to amend to at least make the decision on the motion easier. But given the lack of content in defendant's letter, which I'd argue there was plenty of content in that letter, they make so many assumptions here. It's wild. Much of the purpose of Rule 15A1B is not served by an amendment without more detail on exactly why defendant thinks the complaint is ill-pled. You don't have a case. That's why we feel like there's nothing here. And we tear it apart in 3 pages. Ron Coleman completely owned your ass. And the fact that you're taking that saying, well, we don't even know what's wrong with it after you get completely owned is wild, but expected. If, for example, the defendant's argument really is the sexist saw that anyone who has multiple sexual partners may be freely accused of specific sex acts for money, or is an argument that the defendant is so sexist he believes that, then there is little need to amend. What are we even talking about? You're trying to extrapolate, what is it, $75,000 out of me from a tweet that I made based off of your person, your plaintiff's concerns that she said herself first? Like, are we serious right now? ECF number 7 at 3. On the other hand, one hopes there is little more meat on those bones, and plaintiff would like to amend to address that meat. The court's individual practices do not specify whether amendment as of right should follow a pre-motion letter or a full motion. Thus, while plaintiff intends to amend, she would appreciate the court's indication on whether it would prefer plaintiff do so before or after a full motion, or perhaps a slightly better explained pre-motion letter. So this is the best part right now. They admit that their pre-motion letter is not good. What they first filed against me was, we'll just say, not accurate, lots of loose ends, half-truths, falsities, contradictions. Maybe we can do it better. Give us another chance. That's what I'm taking out of this. And as far as next steps and what I understand, because that's the end of the letter here, as far as the next steps and what I understand is going to be happening is, now that we've submitted, hey, judge, we're planning on filing for a dismissal, and here's why. And now we have this letter from Alyssa's lawyer, Cohen and Green, saying, no. Please don't dismiss this lawsuit. Don't let them file that, because what we need to do is clarify what we're suing on, because what they're taking issue with isn't actually what we're suing on. Which, honestly, I'm reading this and I still don't understand what you're suing on that's different from what Ron Coleman completely slapped down already himself. So that's where we're at right now. And I believe, I could be mistaken, but waiting on what the judge is going to come forward and say what their decision is for the next steps. And I'll be sure to fill you guys in on that as soon as I know. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Again, check out smashjt.com for the full article breaking down this information and links to it. If you guys appreciate what I'm doing here, you want to support the channel, hit the join button. I would genuinely appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, you stay smashing. Smash Smash